Have you ever seen a puzzle like this, where you have to put all the pieces together to make a square, or any other shape? How is this even possible? How can you put triangles together to make a square? Well, today we're going to explore this by making some tessellations. What is a tessellation? Well, it's essentially when multiple shapes are put together without any gaps or overlaps to create another shape or picture. Think of it kind of like a puzzle. For our project today, we are going to be making our own tessellation. And don't worry, since this is our first time doing this, our shapes won't be too complicated. You will need some construction paper, a white piece of paper, some scissors, and a glue stick. First, take your piece of paper and fold it across so that the top of the paper aligns with the side of it. This will help you create a square. After that, cut along the bottom of the paper like this. Now you have a square. After that, fold your paper in half and cut it like this. Do this 4 times with your paper until you have a small square. After you reach this point, cut the square diagonally to create 2 triangles. Do the same thing with the rest of your construction paper. I recommend using 2 contrasting colors for your first project so it isn't too difficult to do and so that the colors pop. To do this, you can also take a look at the color wheel. For example, I chose the colors blue and orange. For this project, you'll probably only need about half of each construction paper. After, you should have many colorful triangles that are all the same size. Now it is time to have fun. Start playing around with your triangles to create various shapes. You can make a square, a rectangle, a triangle, or even a parallelogram. After, start gluing your triangles down onto a white piece of paper. Continue until you've used up all of your triangles. But we're not done yet. Using your scissors, cut out the shape that you want to make. Like we saw before, you can make a parallelogram, rectangle, triangle, anything. Remember to cut along the sides of the triangle so that the tessellation keeps the same pattern. And ta-da! Now you have your tessellation. Now, why is this important? Well, in math, tessellations can actually tell you a lot of things. For one, tessellations are patterns, and math is the study of patterns. The contrasting colors are placed in alternating order, and the triangles are always positioned the same way. Also, since the shapes in tessellations are always touching and there are no gaps between them, tessellations can tell us a lot about area, perimeter, length, width, distance, and so much more. Let's take an example. Let's say that the sides of each square is 1 unit long. Can we use that to figure out the length and the width of the rectangle? As we know, the shapes in a tessellation are always touching, so we can tell that the length of the rectangle is 4 units long because there are 4 squares that make it up. Now, let's try to do the same thing with the width of the rectangle. Remember, the length of the sides of a square are always the same. Pause the video and try to do this on your own. Well, what is it? The width of the rectangle is 3 units because there are 3 squares that make it up. Now, let's try to find the area of this rectangle. But what is the area of each individual square? We know that each side is 1 unit long, and we know that area is height times width. So, 1 times 1 is 1. The area of each square is 1 unit squared. Okay, so now we know the area of the squares. But how does that help us find the area of the rectangle? Pause the video and try to do this on your own. Well, if we count all the squares that make up the rectangle, we can find the area. You should have counted 12 squares, which means that 12 squares make up the area of the rectangle. And if each square has an area of 1 unit squared, the area of the rectangle should be 12 units squared. Isn't that cool? We were able to find the length, the width, and the area of the shape just by knowing the dimensions of the squares that make it up. We can do the same thing with the tessellation we created. Well, I really hope you liked making tessellations with me. I encourage you to try and experiment with other shapes on your own as well. Also try to find the area, perimeter, length, and width. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!